Are you looking for licensing and placement opportunities? How is multimedia changing and how does that impact your outlook as an artist? That's what we're going to be looking at in this episode of the New Music Industry Podcast.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Weeb.
All right, so today I'm passing the mic with head of music at Artlist, Ori Winokur. How are you today, Ori?
Good, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So Artlist is a music library where media creators can go to find royalty-free music and sound effects for their video content. What's something we should know about Artlist and what makes it unique?
Wow, actually, there's a lot. Actually, first of all, today it's not just music, it's music and footage and like you said, sound effects, and we're growing our content divisions and basically providing more and more content for content creators. Of course, today and in general, we'll focus about music. Music was the first catalog that Artlist launched and the main, I guess, core of the business and also the biggest part of the operation at the moment in many ways. I think what you can say about Artlist, what makes it stand out, and Artlist, it's important to say, was like almost like a fairy tale story. It was profitable on the second week after its release because it really, I think, hit the spot. Even before a lot of development happened, it was just a very good product at the right time. And if you kind of want to break it down, I think to the three main pillars, it's first, a revolutionary model for music licensing. It was the first platform in the world to offer sync licensing for video under a subscription and not but under any kind of direct licensing agreements. In many ways, very similar to what Apple Music and Spotify did with music streaming, which is basically a license to listen under a subscription. So Artlist did a very similar model, but with video sync, and the license is global. It's for any kind of video, very simple. The end user pays once and doesn't have to deal with anything beyond that, which is for modern content creators was a big pain. I think, handling each and every song that they use, all the licensing part of it was, I guess, a nightmare for these people. So that's one main pillar. The second is really the quality of music, because Artlist is built, and all the music is sourced from independent musicians, active musicians worldwide. We'll talk more in depth soon because we have two avenues of how we get music into our catalog, but it's all from real artists. And I think in many ways Artlist hit the right moment in time. When music for sync opened up, because it's not background music anymore and not film scoring anymore. It's something totally different. And I think that my best way of describing what that is that Artlist is like a bridge between independent musicians and independent video creators. So that's kind of the essence of it. All the artists are on front. It feels a lot more like a music platform than any kind of music library before that. It's not just a list. You see the artist, you feel the music. It's really all very real and authentic and high quality. And the third, which is also very important, is that the entire platform and everything we do behind the scenes is basically built as a tool for the video creator to easily find what they're looking for. So there's a very smart search engine abilities, both in the front and in the back end. Some are visible, some are not, but there's a lot of recommendation systems that we're building as well. So it's really like a tool for video creators to get inspired for their soundtrack. And today, beyond that as well, because we also have a lot of great footage and so on. But I think those are the three main pillars that made Artlist stand out so quickly. We're, I think, one of the fastest growing companies in Israel at the moment, and in the licensing industry as well. Like I said, I think it's a good opportunity to say that we really are expanding. And in the past year, we bought two companies. One is Motion Array, which is a marketplace for video creators. And the second is FX Home, which is a UK-based video editing software company. So you can imagine that we're developing and building a lot of things for the future of content creators. So it's becoming an empire.
That's quite compelling. And it sounds like there's a lot of new, exciting developments as well. I'm hearing in that. I jotted down a few things. This might not even be up to date, but 820,000 unique digital assets, AI powered recommendation feature, advanced search capabilities, like you mentioned. Those are really some of the standout things that I heard about Artlist.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we work in music, we work with over 1,000 artists worldwide. And we're also, I think, I cannot really provide the exact numbers, unfortunately, but we are paying out, I think, one of the best paying out platforms for artists in the world today, which is something we're very, very proud about. We just finished our yearly royalty cycle, and it's astounding to see. I mean, our artists are so happy about this opportunity, and it's for us, it's why we're doing this whole thing. So that's also great to point out.
And obviously, I have some questions connected to that. But first, I hear the stock music game is shifting fast. What is something you can tell us about where things are going now?
It's a great question. I think, there was, I guess, in the past 5 to 7 years, a big shift that now I think people are really starting to realize or kind of, becomes part of the music industry in many ways. I remember when I started off with Artlist 3 years ago, and I was talking to people, even just in the local scene or in the music business in general, they kind of didn't understand what I'm talking about, how the future of micros licensing is going to become so important. And, if you look what's happening in the past very few years, maybe just 3 years, you see how platforms like TikTok and YouTube, which are basically UGC video platforms, have more impact on the music industry than, I guess, even more than radio today. You can almost,
Right.
yeah, I think you can say that for sure. If you look at I think out of the 10 songs nominated for Grammys this year, 7 of those were driven to become hits through TikTok. So, what's the biggest influence on music industry? It's the video industry. And in many ways, also vice versa, by the way. And I think, the way I looked at it recently, I remember that when I was a kid, there was this term that was always used, multimedia. It was like the new age of art is multimedia. And I think it's really happening, that media is really connecting culturally and business-wise, or like the actual ecosystem is connecting. And what we see with Artlist is that we see amazing organic traffic going through songs that we license on a subscription base, so they get used on many, many videos, UGC generated videos. So people just use it for videos that get uploaded. It's like another distribution arm for the music, because these people have a lot of following. And that following, if they like what they hear in the background, they Shazam it and they reach the artist profile on Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever streaming service they use. So it's like we call it the magic circle or the Artlist effect internally in the company, which is where we just see amazing organic traffic driving naturally between the video and the audio digital domains. So I think that's in many ways, that's what you see. And, looking again, I think 2 years ago when I was talking about it, people thought I'm nuts, but now it's kind of out there already. But if you're looking at VR, metaverse, augmented, all that stuff, you see that it's going to be even more, because it's really going to be one, more altogether multimedia experience for the customer, and the same probably with the consumption and how to drive success of different parts of that experience, which music would be part of, I guess, or I'm sure will be. So it's all coming together and connected in both the artistic side of things and the more, business or monetization side of things.
And another channel that came to mind for me was NFTs. Everybody's talking about NFTs right now, and we'll see where that goes, right? If I was a betting man, I would say that video still has more long-term potential, and NFTs have absolutely can develop into more. But I have a feeling that, exactly what you said, that multimedia is so strong right now. That would be the place to.
Now it's coming to creation and into reality. That's how art is going to be consumed as a multimedia experience.
Yeah.
A singular media experience. And I think it's been building up for maybe over a decade now. And now it's really going to become the standard of what we consume and, and how we consume it. So.
Yeah, I really believe that. And, artists listening to this might be interested in submitting their music to your library. Can anyone join, or are you looking for a specific type of artist? Because you mentioned high quality music, right? So you're probably vetting it.
Yeah, that's kind of, I guess maybe we should have started off with that, but we're very highly curated and it's part of, I guess, our secret. And I mean, when I said we have very high quality, of course, it comes from a lot of curation on our end as well.
Yes.
Basically, and this is also important to explain, we have two avenues of music entering the artist catalog. One is what I established when I joined the company 3 years ago, which became to be Artlist Original, which is our original arm of producing music. Very similar to how Netflix started off as a platform and then became also a film production or TV production company as well. And their original content was very successful, at least at the beginning when they started off. I think now it's a bit of a drop, but so Artlist Original, we aim to produce the best music for the catalog. Of course, we have a lot of benefits sitting on the back end of our own platform, so we know our users very well, and we do have a lot of things happening behind the scenes in terms of how we analyze and tag our music, so we can have very smart conclusions to how and what to do. But I guess the real interesting thing is when I started building this, it was very small. And I was so surprised by the quality of the tracks we get, and the variety and we make basically almost any style and genre of music you can imagine, almost always hitting very high quality of both writing and producing and performing and performance of music. And I very quickly understood that I should create basically some sort of a record label model behind it. So Artlist Original today operates as what you can call a modern version of a record label that is inside a high-tech company, making music for a platform that gives license for video sync, but also delivers all the music to DSPs, also acts as a very active publisher to collect all the royalties for all those uses. And we have a very cool deal with our artists, which is basically like a very cool partnership. So it's like a win-win situation for both sides. I think all of our artists that we work with, they always say it's a great deal because it's kind of like combining the old school methods with the new school methods. So when I was drafting all my ideas, I used to call it Motech Records because it's like Motown and tech. So that's kind of how I envisioned it. And I think it really came together. Today, we're producing over 1,000 songs a year with, again, artists from all over the world. And we see amazing organic success on the streaming platforms as well. We're also now aiming to grow this much more. And aside from this model with Artlist Original, where we are very picky with everything, but there we choose every artist we work with, and we work with briefs, and we have a full artistic process happening there together with the artists. We also accept submissions from what we call external submissions from artists, which is basically open on our website. You can just click on the menu and find that page. It's called Become an Artist, and just submit your music. And again, we're very, very highly curated there. I think we accept about 1% of submissions. And there we pay royalties per use, which is similar to the streaming model, but with much higher rates. I can say hundreds of times higher. Because we're very picky, we have 21,000 songs to date on air. So it's like 5 years, 21,000 songs. On Spotify or on streaming platforms today, I think over 60,000 songs a day. So, make the comparison. It's very highly curated, and we make sure every song on the catalog is being used and noticed, and it's there for a reason. It's not just there. So, I guess that in many ways, it's what's missing in today's music industry is that in the amount of releases grew to something that was never seen before. And the role of A&Ring disappeared because the label models disappeared. And we have a very active and also expanding A&R department because we need it. And I think that's in many ways what's interesting here. It's like a revival of an older school, structure of the music industry that's coming back to life in many ways, which for me was missing for many years. I've been a producer all my life, and I think I was mainly in the era where it was like the gold rush of indie, and there was nobody supporting anything that artists did, at least, in my scene. And it was missing. So I think as a producer, I became an A&R person as well, because I had no choice. I mean, somebody had to do that role as well. So to make sure I produce successful records, it was also meant to be some sort of an A&R person as well. So
I could definitely see that there's an opportunity for a new kind of label. That's part of the conversation in my world as well, with some of my team members and some of my colleagues and acquaintances and things like that. And so I really love what you're up to there. And yeah, it's like A&R was not sustainable for a while because there was just no money for it. Right? It's like,
yeah, I mean,
we already have our stable of artists. We're comfortable. We're going to add people if we think they have a great brand and image, but otherwise it's like, no, we're just not going to touch that.
and then, with technology, of course, came the rise of do-it-yourself and real indie artists and empowerment of artists to really do it on their own. But there are still things that basically, need some sort of industry support or professional support. And I think A&R is definitely one of those things that we're very much missing, or quality control in general. If you think about it, if 60,000 songs are released a day, sorry to say, but some of those are not so good, for sure.
Yes.
It wouldn't be all gold, So, yeah. And if you think about it, the older school of culture in general, it's same with film, same with almost everything. And I think our CEO just had a great talk about this in an article published about it. Basically, what's happening is, the end of the superstar model, because it used to be very few artists with a very big investment behind them, both in film, both in almost every consumed art form. And today it's all open up, because you can have a 16-year-old TikToker, which is bigger than the biggest Hollywood star today in terms
That's
of
right.
both profits and yeah, and I mean and following, So it's same with music, I think, but it still needs some sort of direction and connection between the two ends, which is the end user and the creator, to make it work. And I think Artlist is a company that's right there in the right place in the middle to make it work, and adding the missing elements in both terms of in both tech terms and industry or more professional business side term or side of things. So
a big part of my mission has been empowering artists with new revenue models, right? So like, you're a perfect guest to bring on to shed light on another opportunity that artists might be able to take advantage of. It's been something that I've been up to for years now. And it's just amazing to me that there's still artists who go, well, streaming royalties aren't enough. And I said, but you have to recognize that there's just so many other amazing revenue models available. And streaming for most artists is just going to be like the cherry on top, not the cake. And so we have to really start thinking about the cake and put time and energy into that.
yeah, and I can also say that the bigger the cake, the more cherries on top as well.
That's right. Yeah, I love that.
And I really see that happening. And I guess I was the same. I kind of came into this new age with Artlist, coming from a very kind of almost underground indie local scene vibe kind of producer and musician, always on the no money side of things. I think for me it was same. I was looking for where can we break the barrier, because for me, like, why shouldn't artists make money? There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
And that's like a big topic, because I can go about many different avenues of conversation here, but I think there's a few interesting things happening here. One we already discussed, which is how the digital ecosystem is connecting, so that immediately maximizes or even enhances opportunities, because things can really connect. So if you get placed in a great YouTube video with 20 million views, and it's enough that 100,000 people out of those 10 million like the song, and today, remember, also songs are sometimes very frontal part of the video, so it's almost like video clips or music video clips out there being made. And same with TikTok, and it doesn't matter which format of video, it's a huge mechanism of exposure. And so if you're asking, most musicians are like not used to this new revenue avenue, would say no, but why should I micro license my songs for such a cheap rate? Or that's the kind of switch you need to do in your mind, that you can sit and wait for one big Netflix sync your entire life. There's about a 90% chance it would never happen. And when it does today, also the rates there are lower than they ever been. And or you can find a way to use the internet model, and the sharing model, and create a lot of microsync happening, and you get both paid more for sync and a lot more traffic your way because it's a lot of organic exposure for your music. So I guess that's one thing for sure. And the second is that something, I guess, for me, amazing that I see happening in the past few years is a reformation of how music copyrights are being handled in the digital domain. You see it both in terms of tech developments that are finally kind of, becoming what a lot of people imagined for many years, becoming really tools to be, to empower people to collect all their data of uses, of placements, of plays, of streams, and really connect all the information together and turn it into, smart and active royalty collection, because definitely publishing royalties are still being collected and managed in pretty old school methods. But
tell me about it.
In reality, there's ways already to handle it totally different with the help of tech, especially audio fingerprint and smart database management. And I think also, again, in the past 2 years, you see a lot of startups starting to emerge, and combine all that with cryptocurrency and the ability to have immediate payments and data transfers and so on. And I think you see how, I think in a year or two, it's all going to be different. Like an artist could deliver his song to multiple uses, multiple platforms, and immediately receive all the information and collect back money for the uses and for all kinds of copyrights, not just for the direct kind of, I used to sell my CD and take a cut out of that and then hope that I'll get all the rest of the plays from all, so that really changes today. And I think it goes together, because if the consumption ecosystem is connecting and getting bigger, and the methods of tracking and collecting gets better, then there's a very big opening there, for a change in how it works and how much money could be generated. Mainly how much money can be collected back to the artist, because that's the main missing link. It's all being collected. Question where it goes.
We had the founder of Tungo. I was just looking up his name because I was totally blanking on it. John Cole of Tungo on the podcast, talking about some of this stuff that, their music distribution platform isn't just about distribution anymore. They handle NFTs, they handle sync licensing and placements because they've built a curation and network. They handle promotion. And that's like the missing piece. I still talk to musicians who are super frustrated over, I don't know which distribution service to use because they all don't really do much for me. Like there's not much customer support, there's not much hands-on. But we're going to be coming into an age where so much of it is automated and it can be spread far more quickly across more platforms.
But you know what I also think, because you said it this way, and it's interesting that it's not going to become less do-it-yourself. It's going to become even more do-it-yourself.
That's right.
Much smarter tools. So I think the new age of artists, I think my people, like kind of my generation, we're right in the middle of it. So we saw how it used to be. I used to print CDs, duplicate CDs and write the titles on my own and send those demos out through mail and stuff. So that's like the total old school way. And I also was lucky enough to see a big change in the music world. And I think, new artists coming, rising up today and up and coming today are going to have so much more power in their hands because of all this great tech. And again, it's even more than tech, because now you see legislation happening in the US and Europe that, also changes a lot of things. The US copyright law was the first time it was renewed 5 years ago, I believe, was the last time it was renewed. Before that was in the age of actual just music notation. There wasn't even vinyls when the first bill was made, so there is major change, are major changes happening, and it's now only coming into reality, like slowly becoming part of the new reality of music monetization and copyright collection. So I definitely think it's going to change. And NFTs that you mentioned, it's funny because NFTs I think it's a lot of hype, because
it's a lot of hype.
It's something that was is there for a long time, and it's basically just all about authentication of data, and information at the end of the day. And I think there's still are a lot of missing links for it to become something
Exactly.
that really changes everything. Um, I have a feeling, going into VR and metaverse kind of experiences where you can have a much, much like a closed circuit environment. That's where NFTs could become very, very important because it could track and split shares with like 100% authentication if it's a secure and closed environment, digital environment, I mean, of course. And I think that's what's going to happen with Web3. Reading a little bit about it is that security is going to work differently in the next level of internet, which everybody are starting to talk about. And it's not going to be all open like it is today in the same manner, So once that happens, NFT would become very instrumental in helping maintaining copyrights and information and
Yes.
matching that with, of course, musical assets or any kind of asset, basically. So
It's something with immense potential. And like a lot of other things that are going on in the world right now, the political healthcare climate is so volatile that you don't know when you're going to be locked down again and not able to play gigs. And you don't know when, the government doesn't like decentralized currency. They want to create their own. That's where things are headed, unless we make some big changes in the world and make pushes for the things that really matter to us. And so, yeah, it's a very, very volatile thing right now. If anybody's like really winning at NFTs, let me know. That's great. We're not here to put you down or anything.
NFTs are part of a very interesting way towards change. That's the way I see it. But
Yeah.
it might take another year and have it totally retransformed before it becomes something more on basically like common use of how you handle these things of of digital distribution and collection of asset royalties, I guess. And I think really it's beyond music too. So it's going to be beyond music when we get there.
Yeah. I mean, the blockchain is going to make it faster, period.
Sure, but it's still not in a consumption level where it can just work for everything and anybody. And it's also still not really secure because it's still digital files you can always copy. So at the end of the day, it's not really, secured. The NFT is like a nice attachment that goes along with something that is still very vulnerable and still very open for piracy. I don't know if you saw it, but I think like a month ago, somebody opened up a Pirate Bay NFT for NFTs.
Interesting.
He proved how cracked it is because he uploaded tons of NFTs that were sold for like millions. They just replicated those and offered them for free on Pirate Bay. So there you go. It's still not a game changer. And if you look at music streaming, it took about 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, between the day Napster broke the old school record consumption world, so everybody stopped buying records and starting listening online. It took 15 years for it to become a business model of subscription for streaming. And if you look at what happened to the revenue between 15 years and when it started, it basically broke the record industry but almost to dust. So, when people say now we're making a little bit of money from streaming, you should basically also be thankful because before streaming, there was nothing no revenue to be collected from recorded music for many years.
Yeah.
In many ways, when people stopped buying records. So it's similar. It's gonna at some point, more tech and more developments are going to happen that it's going to become part of the normal way of how music is consumed, and then NFTs or the technology of blockchain copyrights or contracts would become a very important part of it for sure.
I'm pretty much the same mind as you. Yeah, I think it has an opportunity to develop into something better than it is. But I just, it's kind of face palm for me when I hear musicians say, "Oh, I was on Clubhouse today. What did you learn about?" "I'm so excited. We learned about NFTs." And I'm like, yeah, you're like the 8,000th person I've heard today say that. And here's what you need to know about NFTs.
Yeah, it's like the current hype, but I think it's good because it's also, at the end of the day, hypes, what they do is they bring things into the consciousness.
Yes.
Or I think also like the general consciousness, there's this individual. So slowly, so it also means more people are looking in and investigating what the hell is going on with digital copyrights, so that's also a good thing because it's going to end up developing into a solution or to a newer solution that's going to be better. So
Absolutely.
I'm blessing the hype, although I think definitely a blown up hype over NFTs at the moment. But I'm blessed. I think it's a very important part of the road to success in those terms.
Yeah, I like how you summarize that. One thing I wanted to touch on was Artlist Original, and it's something you kind of alluded to already, but you have over 2 decades of experience as a music producer. That's kind of a big deal. And you got this large scale production house and full service record label. It sounds like the perfect extension to your music library efforts. What's something you're excited about with your producing efforts right now?
With our producing efforts.
Yeah.
Wow, honestly, I think it's really, I guess the thing I'm proud of the most, I guess, with everything I do at Artlist is that we really managed to build this, what I call it, creative infrastructure. So we built a way to work with very large scale of music production and maintain very high quality. I remember, when I built the plan of how to scale up from something that was almost just local and, with people I know to become something global and very, very large scale, I didn't sleep at night because I thought we're going to lose quality. And I'm so surprised and humbled to see the opposite happening.
Mm.
And it's like we see the quality rising. We see more and more successful song. We just hear better music, coming out of this production house as you described it. And I think for me, that's like the biggest, most exciting things and to see how our artist community with Artlist Original is so happy doing this. It's like, in many ways, they feel like they, won the lottery working with us, which is for me, that's what I wake up in the morning for, I guess, and do everything around that to keep the artist making music, and succeed with their art. For me, that's the main thing that everything revolves around at the end. So
yeah, and I jotted down some. Yeah, absolutely. I jotted down some notes here again, and these numbers might not be accurate anymore. You might have done more, but your label produced 700 songs by 150 plus artists worldwide. Like that's notable too.
No, it's actually much bigger. I guess the time the time that passed between the time we scheduled this interview. No, today it's the scale is about 1,000 songs a year, and we have
1,000 songs.
over 300 artists under our roster today.
Amazing.
For originals only, combined with our external roster, it's over 1,000 artists. So it's really like a large scale indie artist network, I guess you can say. And it's very cool.
I'm humbled by your success, and there's much to learn from it for everyone listening. So now we'll get into the speed round of questions. What was the last YouTube video you watched?
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is going to be weird, but it's actually the last link I watched. Oh, you know what it was? Sincerely, it was Artlist Live Radio, because we just renewed it. We just launched a new live stream radio on YouTube. So that's the last link open on my desktop, because I checked out the new playlist we launched there. So
awesome.
Welcome to check it out. It's totally open for listening, and it's looping great music 24/7.
Terrific. Yeah, check it out. And what is your daily routine like?
Oh, you don't want to hear about that.
Is it pretty intense? 16-hour days?
First of all, I have three children. So
oh, man.
I wake up very early. I take my 2 boys to school. Most days I travel to the office. I live out of town, and the office is in the central Tel Aviv state, we call it, central city of Israel. So I travel to the office, and my daily, it's hard to say I have a routine, because we're in such growth mode at the moment that there's nothing that really, happens twice almost. But I try to split my time between artistic development and management development, and I see it as 2 sides of the same coin, and we're busy doing so many things. It's hard to describe a routine, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It's more like how to do many things at once and make sure everything goes well.
Sounds like my life lately. Yeah. Are there any books that have helped you on your journey?
Books, wow, a few. That's a great question. I just off the top of my head, more in the, I guess, music production side of things, I think Mixing with Your Mind is a book I love. Don't know if you know it. It's a book that for me was like, I felt like I'm reading my thoughts, like that's how I kind of looked at things. And I loved it how it's like a book that describes what's normally considered as very technical sound engineering work as something very philosophical and spiritual. And I think that's a great book that influenced me a lot. Good question. There's one, I'm not sure how it's titled in English, to be honest. Wow, but there's a few. I think more than a book, also a lot of the recent series really influenced me recently. Like the Defined ones for me was, I guess, a game changer in my life in many ways. Watching that story really, I guess, made me shift my thoughts as well. Yeah, but that's just off the top of my head.
What's the greatest challenge you've overcome?
Wow. I used to produce records for indie artists, so there's many big challenges to overcome.
I imagine.
The biggest challenge, wow, that's a serious question, man. Biggest one, wow, I'm not sure, I mean, in many ways, I feel like challenges keep growing. As you grow, challenges keep growing with you, but you also become a little bit more experienced, so you handle them differently. So, I mean, it's really in the eye of the beholder, things that for me were big challenges when I was a teenager today look like very simple stuff to handle. So, yeah, but I guess if to be honest, it's becoming a parent is the biggest challenge in life. For sure, if it's not part of the music talk here, but yeah, that's the biggest one for sure, I guess. And then definitely combining that with a lot of aspirations in the career side of things, that's a big daily challenge, I guess.
Yeah, that's wisdom, I think. And what's the greatest victory you've experienced?
Wow, I think I'm lucky to say I had many victories in my life. The biggest one, I think what we discussed is probably my biggest victory. I mean, coming into Artlist, I think I was so lucky to join the company at very early stages. And I'm very lucky that, the founders gave me so much, both freedom and direction and support to build this thing and go and follow my dreams, and which, of course, is becoming all of our dreams together. But I really feel that I was very much empowered by them. And I think what we managed to build in 3 years, I think actually next week I'm 3 years at Artlist. So, even just telling you all these stories and understanding it all happened in 3 years, that's a very big victory, I guess, for me and for the company. And I'm very happy about it. And I think it made me also learn, which something I feel you learn through life in general, is that the more ability you have to connect to other people, the bigger things you can do. And I think for me, Artlist is the biggest human connection as well, or professional connection I ever had. It's like almost 300 employee big company, and again, I used to have collaboration happening all the time, but with much smaller scale, all like indie art operations in different levels, but it was always 10 people tops, you know what I mean? So I could really see how connecting to more and more minds and people and spirits has a way of really what you call synergy becoming, real.
That is so good. Well, thanks for your time and generosity. Or is there anything else I should ask before we wrap up?
No, I can talk forever if you want. But,
Zoom's going to kick us out soon, so we can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. No, but I think, I maybe can just say to wrap it up that I honestly think, we're in an absolutely incredible time to be alive. And I think there was a decade for music which was really rough. And I think it's really something is changing for the best, and I think we're so lucky to be part of it and be witnessing also the change, because nobody knows what's on the other side, and to be able to see the shift is for me, like, I feel like, it's an honor and a privilege to be here and see it and be part of it in many ways, I guess. And I think all musicians should understand this and help them motivate and keep doing their thing, because it's really getting better,
Yes, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing today.
Of course. So happy. Thank you for inviting me, and have a good evening.
You as well. The Unstarving Musician podcast, hosted by Robunzo, features interviews with independent music artists who share their experience and expertise on recording, touring, getting gigs, their creative process, marketing, and more. It's a podcast intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Find it at unstarvingmusician.com and wherever you get your favorite audio. This has been episode 260 of the New Music Industry Podcast. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I look forward to seeing you on the stages of the world. Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.